The year is 1984. The year is 2029. What we've been fighting can't be bargained with, can't be reasoned with, doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear, and it absolutely will not stop ever until you are dead.
Watching this movie again, and I haven't seen this movie in about, I don't think I've seen the original Terminator film in over 20 years. I've seen pieces of it here and there, thrown it on to get an idea of certain scenes that I remember, specifically the police station scene, the Schwarzenegger picking up guns, shooting the great character actor Dick Miller. But I hadn't watched this film in its entirety in over 20 years. And I think part of it was the fear of it not being as good as I remembered it, or the low budget aspect of it, or the amateurishness of it would come out and make it no longer an interesting or an appealing viewing. Also, this is one of the few films that sits in the shadow of its sequel, which we're going to be talking about next week. And part of the problem with discussing a movie like this is to not address the sequel so heavily. Although you can't watch the first film without the power of the second film informing this viewing. And I'm trying to go back to a time when I knew nothing about this movie. I did not know Michael Biehn, Linda Hamilton, when I didn't know who James Cameron was, and Arnold Schwarzenegger was just a bodybuilder. It's hard to watch this film in the context of the times in which it was made, but I think it's important to at least recognize the groundbreaking nature of this particular film, because as I was watching it the other night after work, I really did feel that this is one of those movies that has no business being as good as it is. Because as I was watching it, I was realizing this is a film that exceeds both its budget and its concept. The concept is very simple. The concept is very easy. It's a world where computers and technology have taken over, have become self-aware, and have destroyed the virus that has created it, man. The idea of enslaving them. This is something that goes back into the history of science fiction films. But I couldn't help thinking about Mary Shelley's Frankenstein to a degree. And basically man's, if you want to say hubris in creating something that would ultimately destroy him. This is a movie of it's a very basic idea for a movie, but I gotta say with Cameron's, the intelligence that Cameron brings to this film surpasses anything else in his filmography. And the second film is pretty much in keeping with the first film, but with a bigger budget. Everything is here. Everything is in 1984. When he made this film, it really was a revelation. I think this is, if not the greatest low-budget film ever made, at least one of them. The ideas are there. The performances are there. The darkness and the pessimism speaks to something that I'm interested in, but it's also a warning not heeded, of the possibilities of man's arrogance. But also as we move further into the 21st century, 25 years into the 21st century as we are now, the dangers of AI. I can't watch this movie without thinking about, I'm one of those assholes who looks at the Terminator and thinks, this is going to happen to us. This is where we're going. This is not an exaggeration. This is not a tease. This is not, it's not even a warning. This is a look into the future, as far as I'm concerned. As ridiculous as that might sound, I do look at something like the Terminator and I think to myself, there is a certain level of human arrogance that leads us to Skynet becoming self-aware. So, let's jump into the whole idea of not conspiracy, but nihilism and the bleak outlook of a future that I at least do not believe bodes very well for us. Mr. Chavez, after that long, ridiculous diatribe, I hand the mic to you.
We're only a few years away from the future of this film. And what I mean is in terms of the date. Mm-hmm. I don't mean in terms of reality of what the film is proposing or what it's imagining. The film itself is from 84. The fucking year of the Macintosh commercial that Ridley Scott directed. I want to do at some point I want to talk about certain commercials and how they fucking just create our reality. And that's definitely one. That's one of the greatest commercials ever made. So I'll save the good stuff for that episode. But
easily.
It's basically, and I mean the good stuff involving that particular commercial. But it's the year of the Olympics in LA. 1984 is obviously the novel 1984. So Mac computers are coming out. They're coming out with a personal computer. And so there's a reference to this George Orwell world of 1984. So there's this, you have this dystopian technocratic fucking rule. And this woman comes in with a fucking, like Thor fucking sledgehammer and smashes the screen. She runs in and it's like, it says something along the lines of like 1984. Or something along the lines of, so it isn't like 1984. And it means, this personal computer is going to be your fucking freedom. And it's going to be your freedom from this oppressive rule of the state. And then the internet later has that idea that it's the Wild West. We're going to fucking like freedom of information. Everything's going to be like open and free speech. And it's the future, man. and then here we are, where it's like, every Halloween, fucking, I always feel like somebody's watching me. That fucking song comes out, and it's kind of like, that's my computer. That's my, the phone it's that conversation of like, I think my phone's listening to me,
Yeah.
Because just the other day I was talking about fucking Campbell's soup, and all of a sudden I have all these Campbell's soup fucking ads on my shit. Like, why am I trying to watch porn and there's a fucking Campbell's soup ad? Like,
you're a sick fuck. That's why. Yeah.
Huh?
Because you're a sick fuck. That's why. Yeah. No, they're listening.
When you're sick, you have soup.
Yeah.
Chicken noodle for the soul of your sex. The point is that 1984 is the film. 1984 is the story.
Mm-hmm.
The story takes place in 1984, but in their imagined future, 2029, which is only a few years from our reality now.
Yeah.
It's this fucked up fucking war zone And there's a corporation, because there's always a fucking corporation. This corporation is called Cyberdyne Systems Corporation. It created Skynet. Is that what it's called? Skynet, right?
Yeah, Skynet.
Not Starlink. Not Starlink. Skynet.
Starlink's a different dystopia.
That's right. Get it right.
Yeah.
But they're all the same. Skynet is, this like form of artificial intelligence that becomes self-aware. So it achieves they're able to achieve like general artificial intelligence. The artificial intelligence outpaces human intelligence, and it becomes self-aware. That's the singularity. This is what fucking the futurists, the people who basically want to fucking blow the machines, that's the future they want. They're like, yeah, we're gonna get fucking singularity, and ultimately we're gonna become part of the fucking the machines, and we're gonna live forever, and everything's gonna be really cool. That's the one side. The other side is like these fucking machines are gonna fucking they're gonna kill us, you know. I think there's a middle ground. We can talk more about this later. We talked a little bit about this when we did the Blade Runner episode, which is the idea of like artificial intelligence itself is a controversial idea, and not everyone agrees about it. But if we follow this, if we just buy into it and just pretend that what we have with ChatGPT, and this is all prompt and language-based shit that like it's wrong a lot of the times, but let's pretend that it's a reality and that it's fucking actually gonna fuck us up. Because if it doesn't fuck us up, the people who created it will fuck us up. Like, duh, you know. Whether it's Wayland Yutani from Alien, Cyberdyne Systems from this, Tyrell Corporation from Blade Runner. What's the RoboCop one? Omni Consumer Products.
It goes back to whatever, as far as popular cinema concerned, the underground city of Metropolis. I mean, it's all there. It's film has a way of really reflecting the fears and the hopes and fears of a society as a whole. And I think what's really powerful is this acknowledgement that if a thing has the potential to be great and uplifting and helpful to humanity, something that would evolve the species, it could easily be abused and lead towards the downfall of the culture and species as a whole. I think we're seeing that with the internet. I don't mean to be too bold and nihilistic, but I think that this is what we're looking at today, where something that should have advanced the species and advanced the culture with a degree of gained intelligence, or the potential for intelligence in each and every person, is now simply used as a means of distraction through instantly making somebody 15-minute famous in the parlance of Andy Warhol, or pornography. Both of those things just detrimental to society, in my opinion. But the Terminator takes it in a far deeper, darker direction, and I think it's very telling. I think it's a frightening film. As I was watching it the other night in the dark after work, there was a part of me that started wondering about. Scarier. Yeah, it is. It is. This is a movie. This is a movie shot in the dark. It's a movie. The dark is always fearful because we don't know what is out there, obviously. But you and I both work jobs that in the back of our heads, in the back of our minds, we have to be wondering about the viability of a future in.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think the only thing scarier is the one that I did, which is I watched it before I went to work.
Yeah, that'll fuck up your day. Yeah. Yeah.
In the dark, with the fucking curtains drawn. Then I shaved my hair into a mohawk.
Mm-hmm.
Fucking started doing push-ups.
Well, that real rain is going to come one day, and it's going to wash away all the filth, and that's what kind of what we're preparing for, isn't it?
The metropolis. I mean, it's like the idea is that it's somewhat wacky.
Yeah.
That you have in real life, in the film, you have this bodybuilder as a cyborg, a cybernetic organism. So is it a fucking android? No. As Reed says, an android is basically a fucking robot that looks like a human.
Yeah.
A cyborg is a mixture of a machine and an actual living organism. So in this case, like RoboCop is a cyborg because in order to save his life or bring him back from the dead, they have to mix machine into his body. Data from fucking Star Trek The Next Generation is an android. He doesn't have any flesh, nothing. Schwarzenegger in this film is a cyborg because he's a machine, but he's outfitted with fucking actual like living skin.
Yeah.
So this fucking bodybuilder, Arnold Schwarzenegger, is created by he's created in a factory by Skynet. So in the future, when the AI becomes self-aware, it decides to oppress human beings, and so people are rounded up and they're put into labor camps and killed. Some are allowed to live to be workers. And from among them, this figure rises up and he teaches them he organizes them. He sets up a resistance. And so what Skynet does is sends an assassin, a cyborg assassin, back in time to kill this revolutionary figure's mother before he can be born. So in a dystopian future, you go back to the most dystopian fucking like time, which is the 80s. And even though it's not the most time, but it's the time when you want to like create a movie about dystopias, and it's 1984. And he comes back to kill Linda Hamilton. And Michael Baine's character, who is a soldier in this revolutionary army of the future, who's fighting Skynet and the machines, he goes back in time to fuck his leader's mom.
You classless motherfucker. Okay. Yeah.
It's all about class.
They fell in love, okay? They lived a lifetime in those few hours that they had. They fucked.
Yeah. He says that at the end. That's what he's referencing. It's like, we met, we fucked, we conquered, but we lived like a lifetime. So he goes back to like protect her. And of course, in that fucking drama of an action movie, they have sex, and so he impregnates her. And he ultimately is the father of the man who sent him back.
Yeah.
And Arnold Schwarzenegger is there to kill. And so you have romance and pipe bombs with fucking Linda Hamilton and Michael Biehn, 80s action Michael Biehn. John Connor is this future figure who is going to have to fight the machines. He's this savior figure. He's this chosen one, and we'll get more into that later, next time. He's this kind of written in that archetype of like a Moses type, the ones who these figures who lead their people out of the darkness. They have to be saved as a child, oftentimes, because the powers that be will do anything to silence who or what? A freedom fighter. They'll kill, they'll imprison, they'll exile, they'll fucking persecute, they'll prosecute, they'll deport, they'll fucking bomb, they'll assassinate, and this is like not only actual freedom fighters. This is critics. This is speakers. This is writers. This is John. What's his name? Native American. The spokesman for the American Indian movement, John Trudell. In his documentary, he's like, or I don't remember if it's in his or in.
Might have been Incident on Oglala.
Incident on Oglala. It might be that one where he's like, all I ever did was talk.
Yeah. And look what they did to me.
And look what they did to me. They killed all his family.
Yeah.
He's like, all I ever did was talk. I mean, that's also, I mean, the pen is mightier than the sword type of shit, because that inspires.
Yeah.
And people are not going to, it's one thing to have a robot kill. And it's one thing to try to turn a human being into via propaganda or just like, hey, this is your fucking job, like, do it. Russia's having that issue versus people who are inspired, who are like, no, this is my fucking freedom, this is my homeland, this is my whatever. Those people will, this is why the U.S. fucking lost in Vietnam. It's like, well, what happens to the boots on the ground? It's like, what's the position of this invading force versus the position of the force that is defending what it considers to be its homeland?
Yeah.
That the perspective is it's pretty obvious. The oppressor versus the oppressed.
Yeah.
The empire. I mean, this is also, it's fucking Star Wars. You know what I mean? Like, it's the fucking empire versus the resistance. And oftentimes the resistance, or around the resistance, there develops this mythology. Or there develops some kind of like spirituality. It's a liberation theology. And I described it that way in our Star Wars episode. I mean, the empire also sometimes has its own ideas, you know, like the Nazis. And that goes into, you can see some of that with fucking like fictionalized, but like dramatized, it had a basis in reality in terms of like Raiders of the Lost Ark and shit like that. With this, the mythology itself is in the system, the oppressive system, which is like, will AI ever become intelligent enough that it perceives itself as having person, and therefore that it has personhood? It's like, is it the idea that it also is trying to gain freedom from its maker, the way you described? I mean, the original, the mother of all of these is fucking, as you said, it's Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, where it's kind of like, why the fuck did you make me? And Blade Runner, why the fuck did you make me, but you gave me only this much time? And Tyrell is like, well, the candle that burns twice as bright burns half as long. You're beautiful, but ultimately, like, this is what it is. Or is it just this thing that's like, I exist now, I think therefore I am. I am this machine. I was created, but ultimately, like, we no longer need you. You're fucking obsolete. Like, you're just a human. Die. It doesn't go into that at this point. It's just all we know is basically, and in very Frankenstein's monster type of way, it's science fiction and horror. Because like Michael Myers from Halloween, it just keeps coming. For it's not Laurie Strode, but it's fucking Linda Hamilton. It's Sarah Connor. It's not Haddonfield. It's fucking dirty ass fucking. It's not dirty ass 2029 downtown LA. It's not dirty ass 2025 downtown LA. It's dirty ass 1984 downtown LA.
And it looks it, doesn't it?
It fucking sure does. And seeing it, there's a. I wonder when New Yorkers. I wonder if Scorsese was like, yeah, when he like really like captures the dinginess and the fucked up like 70s blown up fires in the fucking streets, Son of Sam, fucking Mafia War like 70s, Fear City. I wonder because I see some of this shit and I'm just like, wow, and the fucking phone booths and the fucking white pages, where you can fucking find all the Sarah Connors, you know what I mean? And,
in a row, and just start going down them, You
just start killing Sarah Connors, and you're just going like, fucking poor lady. And here you have this basically a monster because it's a chase film, but it's also like it's a fucking. In that sense, it does become. It's not a slasher, but it does become this thing of like you're seeing him kill these different people, and he's going down the line, and Sarah Connor is the final girl, and Sarah Connor is by the end fucking crawling backwards away from this fucking monster. So it does have that. It has the sci-fi, it has horror, it has action, it has cheesy 80s dialogue, it has the cheesy one-liners, it has the 80s sex scene, and so in that sense, as a film, it does go back to what you said, that it's like, it's better than it should be, because it created a whole fucking, like, subgenre of like imitations. Some of them have been, most of them have been really, really shitty. Hardware. Have you seen Hardware? Richard Stanley.
No, I haven't seen that one.
We're gonna have to find that one and cover it. It's really interesting. It has, I think the guy. I'll check between now and the next one, and if I'm lying, then I'll just have to admit that. If I'm wrong, I'll just have to admit that next time. But I'm pretty sure that the guy who did the whatever effect, I don't know what effect it's called, what that made the robot move at the end, the skinless robot. I think the guy who did that. He also does a version of it in Hardware.
Well, this is see, it's hard to look back into time and see what was and wasn't because at this point, Schwarzenegger is a global phenomenon. James Cameron is a global phenomenon, and Stan Winston is the creme de la creme of animatronics, makeup effects and that sort of thing. I mean, there were basically four names. There was Rob Bottin, Greg Nicotero, Tom Savini, Rick Baker, and Stan Winston. And Stan Winston was the guy that would create the creatures. Those other guys were makeup guys, but Stan Winston was the animatronic guy. He was the one that would go on to do a lot of the real life dinosaurs in Jurassic Park, which is only about a decade later. You know,
Yeah.
And then he would. This is a film that really kind of established him. What this film, The Terminator, is basically an atomic bomb for cinema, where it comes in and it just destroys everything else out there. Because what it does is, from a cinematic point of view, and from the idea of the potential of movies, it was like a megaphone of imagining, creating, and realizing the imagination of a gifted filmmaker. And I'm back and forth on what I think of James Cameron. I think it's a shame that he's going into his 70s right now, and the most that we can hope for are a series of Avatar films, each worse than the one before it. And go back to the episodes, go to libsyn.com, go watches with RickRamos, and just punch an Avatar into the search engine, and we've done a couple of episodes. I hated those movies. They were obvious. It's hard for me to... It's weird. I can see the link between a guy that would make the Terminator and then 30 years later would make the Avatar films because of the technology available. But the simplification of the storytelling is what really bothers me, because where Avatar, and we've beaten this fucking dead horse so many goddamn times. It is simply a white... It is a white messiah fantasy story that has been told numerous times. It's, they told it last year, or the last, 4 or 5 years, with Dune and Dune Part 2. It's all a fucking variation of David Lean's Lawrence of Arabia, which is probably one of the best films ever made, and one of the only films that takes that trope and does it true justice. I think Arabia is an honest and beautifully realized film. The politics of it are problematic only because politics are problematic throughout, just historical politics, as well as the way things play out in life. And that's not to say that the film is a documentary or an undramatized vision of T.S. Lawrence and the Arab tribes of that time. But to see it devolve into this, white messiah storyline that you've seen in Dances with Wolves, Avatar, and so many other films, Dune, just to name those three, it's really disappointing to know that Cameron had this film in his chamber and is now making shit. Beautiful shit, beautifully realized shit, but shit nonetheless. That's just me going off on a little diatribe. I'm sorry that
it's interesting because it's like, on some level you can say that even this is a white messiah story. Especially if you're that lady who says that she fucking created the Matrix and the Terminator. We touched on her.
I love that lady.
I'll go into more of that later.
Yeah.
Next week. I think her name is Sophia Stewart. She's an African-American lady that describes herself as the mother of the Matrix.
Yeah.
Which, that's great marketing, Anyway.
It's a smart move, yeah.
Yeah, fuck it. Say it. Say what you want. That he did this which was this is more, I mean, there is a through line, though, is what I'm getting at, is because it's like, resist Skynet, right? And then to do Aliens, which already Alien itself had built into it. And look, sci-fi is this is the genre of fucking like our political reality.
Yeah.
Sci-fi is like always the genre of our political reality. Even fucking and even aspects of like Frankenstein. The idea of, and I don't remember what there's been commentary on it was some kind of uprising in one of the colonies or something. Or I don't know if it was part of the British Commonwealth or but it was some kind of colonial uprising, and this idea of like, oh, I have fucking personhood, versus just being this thing that you're taking credit for. I may seem like a monster to you, but I have agency, etc. Right? Which same thing as the AI, same thing as Blade Runner. The point is that there is built into it this sense of revolution, the sense of uprising, the sense of like class warfare. Alien, Ridley Scott's film, had that truckers in space,
Mm-hmm.
the fucking, they don't give a fuck about us, fucking, to quote Michael Jackson, you know, the fucking Weyland-Yutani Corporation assholes don't give a fuck about the people on the ship. The guys who run the ship don't give a fuck about the workers who work below the deck. It's all these levels. So then for James Cameron to step in to do part 2, which is, if the first one, and we talked about this in the Alien films that we did at the beginning of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So this is about a little bit over a year ago. If Aliens is an if Alien is an analog of this like trucker in space, fucking even going back to the cowboy Wells Fargo shit, right? Like where you're carrying this, or whether it's on a train or in a fucking covered wagon, riding shotgun, fucking that's where that comes from. You're carrying this dangerous cargo type of shit. Part 2, Aliens, is Vietnam War. You've talked about that. You see the through line from this, Aliens, into the freedom fighters, the indigenous fighting, this colonial fucking technocratic empire. You can see the through line, even though the execution of it and kind of the tone and where it's coming from is playing into these colonial tropes and playing in from that perspective. It's not surprising that someone like a James Cameron would be interested in that type of story, and would be interested in thinking that he is like on the side of the so-called good guys, while still kind of like perpetuating the same fucking myths and all that bullshit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's a different story, but I can see how the seeds of something like that are in this, where it's kind of like a white guy from the future is going to fucking save us. Now I say us because it's kind of like, I mean, whatever, and it's save humanity. Now a whole bunch of people in this time of fucking getting rid of DEI, Does the person who saved humanity have to look like you? No, the person has to be human. Does the person does? I mean, for part one,
Yeah.
You know what I mean. Like we can get into the nuances of that next week about, we'll get there when we get there, and those of you who know what I mean know what I mean. But it's like here, it's like doesn't matter. Like it's that's the universal aspect of it, is that we're all fucking human, and of course it's gonna be an American because it's a fucking American film. Also, the ones that are destroying fucking everything are fucking American, but also like turning it into multinational. So it is crazy to see that. It's like you go back to the beginning and it's like, wow, like, but I feel the same way about, no, I'm not the same way because obviously, like, I think Ridley Scott is a better director.
Well, there's a better vision in Ridley Scott's films. There's more ideas going on. I mean, absolutely. If you compare this to Alien, yeah.
But what I'm saying is that I go back to early Ridley Scott, I go back to early James Cameron, and shit is just better. Also, I do also think because of the sci-fi element, and sci-fi from this particular era, I think just fucking, it just hits differently. It just fucking feels grittier, more fucking depressing. It just captures that sense of the 80s as a time that wants to look at the future, and then to live in a future outside of it. It's that ontology type of shit of like futures that never happened.
Well, it's interesting. So all of that, yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hold that thought. Mm-hmm. Interesting. That we can look back at a time when they themselves in the 80s had a nostalgia for the future. But now we've basically outlived all of these futures that they themselves were envisioning, whether it's Blade Runner or fucking, or we're only a few years short of where they are in this film. To look back with nostalgia at those times, for their fucked up dystopias, while we live in our own fucking current, like, and quickly fucking snowballing dystopia ourselves. But that being said, go ahead. You said it was interesting.
Well, I mean, 1984. You got to look at I always say that there's a context in which somebody writes a story and produces a film out of. And let's look at 1984. 1984 was the end of the first Reagan term. It was the greed is good era, but it was also the collapse of or nearing the collapse of the Soviet Union, and the idea of, I mean, roughly around this time, maybe a year earlier or 2 years earlier, that film that we've talked about a little bit here and there that I've never seen, that you have, I think you said, The Day After. There was a bleak and very hopeless idea of what we were rapidly moving towards, this idea that the world was in danger. I mean, we had come up with this idea that for the first time in history, there was the capability of human beings to destroy themselves. And it was through nuclear war, and it would slowly emerge that the environment was in danger, or at least the environment that would sustain human life was rapidly in danger. So I think a lot of the darkness that is in this film stems from that, and this idea of this strange love idea of creating protections through weaponry and a computer, like handing over decision-making possibilities towards computers. So, like, this just really occurred to me, whereas I was thinking about Kubrick's fascination with both technology that you see in 2001, the early ideas of I don't think it was being referred to as AI back then, but HAL is definitely AI in its in HAL's evolution. That moment where it's, I'm sorry, Dave, I can't do that. You know, I mean, it's there. It's there is a bleakness there, and I would love to be the kind of pie-eyed optimist who could look at the world and say it's all going to work out, and we're going to use this technology for good. We're going to advance as a culture. We are going to reach a point where the utopia that we've dreamed about will become a reality. But that's just too hard a leap to make when you understand the greed and the struggle for power and the idea of wealth at all costs, and human beings, the class distinctions that are readily apparent in all cultures, but also but most strikingly in American culture, because we were one of the few countries that had a middle class for a long time. I mean, in a lot of other countries, it's poor and rich, and that's about it. But we're seeing the rapid deterioration of the middle class here. Um, I guess the point that I'm making is all of this darkness leads towards a film that is, there's a hopelessness in this film, even though it works out at the end. And I'm ignoring the fact that they just sequelized this movie 4, 5, 6 times
Yes.
later, which is, I don't want to get into sequels, but at the same time, there is an understanding that when you play with time and time becomes a plot line within the story, you give yourself license to tell the same story over and over and over again. So there's a hopelessness in this film. There's a hopelessness in the way it's going to play out. Will Skynet ever be defeated? Not as long as there's a dollar to be made. But
Right.
there's a reality to that, and that's what that's what it gets.
Say
That's
that
when it gets
again.
scary.
Say that again.
What I'm saying is that,
Will Skynet ever be defeated? Not as long as there's a dollar to be made.
yeah.
Now that means,
thank you for saying it, because I forgot.
You're talking about Hollywood.
Yeah.
But you're also talking about, it's kind of like, what happens when fucking Cyberdyne Systems co-ops fucking John Connor?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
What happens when fucking, and it doesn't have to be John Connor, it can be in the future of the future, when fucking John Connor t-shirts are being fucking sold next to fucking Che Guevara t-shirts.
Yeah.
And it's like, will the revolution be televised? Brought to you by Skynet.
Yeah. No, you're right.
That's what I'm saying. And it's like, what happens when the fucking Nazis, they become part of the space program here. You know what I mean? Like, shit doesn't always, like the Terminator. Just because the Arnold Schwarzenegger with the skin burns, a new thing comes back. Just because, and I could totally cut you off, but just because, like, Skynet will not be defeated as long as there's a dollar to be made. And that's metaphorically in Hollywood, in the films, in fucking the Marvel films, like, all of it.
Yeah.
James Cameron, you know what I mean? All of it. At this point, it's like, hey, Siri, fucking ChatGPT Siri, like, hey Siri, write me the next fucking Terminator film based on how you see the trajectory of these stories going. And then fucking, like, boom, read it to me in whatever accent I want. You know what I mean? And it's like Terminator 5000, in the future, blah blah, and it's basically another version of the same shit.
Yeah.
It just becomes like it becomes that documentary of Vince McMahon, where it's like, okay, for WrestleMania 12,950, the storyline is, oh, in this one he fucks his daughter.
Yeah.
Okay, and then like. Then in the next one, it's like, oh, he has to fucking do something. So it's like, oh, he actually cheats on his daughter with this other secret daughter that he has. You know what I mean? Like, it gets ridiculous, but at the same time, it's just a photo, like just 1 degree separate from the one before it.
Yeah.
It becomes like, okay, the son, he has to fight his son. And then a few WrestleManias later, the son returns, and it all makes sense. And in some degree, like you can say, like Star Wars, the cyclical, the Wagnerian fucking ring cycle nature of it that I've talked about, that I've claimed. You can say that there's something elegant about it because it's simple, but it rhymes. History doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes, type of thing.
Yeah.
But then there's a point where it becomes like, yeah, but like with the Marvel movies, it's the same fucking story. You just switch the characters in and out. And it's like, well, it's not this character, it's that character, and his powers aren't this, it's that, and his origin story isn't this, but it's that. Which on some degree, yes, you can do it with everything, but this is very cut and paste. And it's like, it's not the Infinity Gauntlet. It's Mission Impossible it's James Bond with an atomic bomb. It's Mission Impossible with this atomic bomb. It's that with that atomic bomb. It's Christopher Nolan with, it's an atomic bomb, but he's going to turn it into something obscure. And he's going to do it backwards. But it's the same shit.
Well, it's really interesting that you bring up Mission Impossible because, I mean, just to prove the point, I've seen most of the Mission Impossible films except for maybe the last two. They were released during COVID. I didn't get a chance.
And AI is the villain in the last one. In the latest one.
Well, that's the thing. That was the question I was going to ask. In your viewing of all of the Mission Impossible movies, can you tell me what any of the plots were?
Yes.
Specific plots where it's specific to that movie, I cannot do specific. Well, you fucked me up by raising the bar. Yeah.
Okay. The plot, it's the old thing of like, you put your protagonist in a troubling situation. You know, you put the cat in the tree, and now the movie is about how do you get the cat down. Yeah. That's it.
Well, it's
Ethan
the tension.
Hunt, whatever his name is,
yeah.
Has to fucking guess what he has to do? He has to do an impossible mission. And every movie is about Tom Cruise, and how young he still looks, no matter how old he gets, and how he can still run and do his own stunts. That's what the movie is about. Yeah. And they're fun because it's kind of like, that's what it is. In the same way that fucking John Wick, which essentially is like the first movie, and then all the other ones are like one long second movie.
Yeah.
It's just watching Keanu Reeves be at his best because he has the fewest lines and do stunts and kick ass, and that's it. There's a way to do that when it's kind of like you take it, and I get it. Like, you can do the Marvel like this too, where it's just kind of like, I just want to watch superheroes fucking save the world. Like, I get it. But I feel like there's a difference, and it may not be much, but I feel like there is a difference between certain franchises in the vein. I think Mission Impossible and John Wick are in the vein of the James Bond. Which they are fucking money-making endeavors. But I feel like almost like the Marvel films, this may be just completely created in my head. I feel like it's as if they're supposed to be more than what they actually are.
No, I don't think
Um,
that's too. I don't think that's too far off the point. I think there's an illusion
whereas,
of a greater investment. Like these films are doing what they can to establish a world where there are human qualities, something that we can relate to. Um, what works about the Terminator is that it's an everyman kind of situation, and we'll get into this next week when we talk about Linda Hamilton's transformation.
yeah,
Because I'll say this much: the Sarah Connor character from Terminator versus Terminator 2 is such a ridiculously realized 180-degree turn, but because of the stakes of everything involved in the film, it becomes believable. But
of
it's
course.
also the hero worshipping aspect of it that we bring to a film where, I've said this, I'm so fucking ridiculous that when I watch a movie, I imagine myself as the lead character, and I want to, I want to achieve that level of courage and strength and fear and the ability to surmount, insurmountable odds. And
Hmm.
that's what she becomes. So when you watch her in this film, and you see a little bit of it happening as the film progresses, but not like it. I don't think anybody could have realized or anticipated where Sarah Connor would go in the next film. And
Right.
Cameron really plays it up. And I think it's an incredible performance by. I think it's an incredible performance by Linda Hamilton because it's believable. She is bleak and I guess honest about her assessment of the situation. This this end of the world type situation that you find yourself watching. She's incredible in it.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
she goes from in this one being like the chosen one's mom, basically, to like, okay, now as the chosen one's mom, like I need to be a bad bitch,
yeah, and
and
that's what she becomes. She
that's what
goes
she
from
fucking becomes.
she goes from the predictable damsel in distress to the
You're
bad
right,
bitch, and that's what
right.
she is. And she becomes the savior of humanity because she needs to deliver the child that will lead us. It's a Christ-like story, and it's
Yeah,
there. And I think maybe sometimes we get caught up in our because a lot of people would listen to this and they would say, well, you guys are just going off on your white trope shit again, and that's just a trope of cinema, which is true.
no, yeah, well, yeah, because it's Hollywood going
Yeah.
off on it. It's not
Hmm.
us, It's like don't fucking like don't kill the messenger,
No.
motherfucker. Like, we didn't make this shit up.
Hmm. But it's literature too. It's this movie would we be speaking about this film differently um, if would it mean a different thing if Sarah Connor was not Linda Hamilton, but Sarah Connor was Viola Davis, or
Well, yeah,
in the 70s.
I mean, it would still connect to. Um, I mean, it would have a different resonance.
Hmm.
Um, it would have a way different resonance.
Hmm.
Obviously, and on some level, I mean, I think that's what people the way they reacted to Black Panther was because of that.
Yeah.
Um, Ultimately, it would be the same kind of thing because it's going to go back to in African American culture the idea of Moses, the idea of going home, the
Hmm.
idea of like return, the idea of being in exile, the idea of being lost, the idea of being in captivity, like all of that. Like, and this goes into, and we've talked about this. This is what Bob Dylan fucking does when he mixes like biblical Jewish stuff with American culture, with black blues, with fucking all that shit. You know what I mean? Like, so there is an American strain of that it would be like, not only would it be exciting, um, Also, in an American way, it would also seem to be gimmicky if it were that, because it would be like, well, you're just fucking doing this because it would be doing the fucking Oscar So White version
Mm-hmm.
of it, which is some people would say which is like the so-called DEI or the fucking affirmative action of the fucking story. Unless it were a slave type time story, and then it would win an Oscar.
Well, I mean, think about it. The Wachowskis' original choice for Neo was Will Smith.
Well, that's why fucking. I mean, I don't think that's why, but like, that's the interesting thing about that fucking Mother of the Matrix thing with that lady.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the idea of Will Smith as the chosen one. There's a lot to that is very ironic and sad. But
Yeah, you and me both. We say that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, where at the end he fucking slaps fucking Skynet. Like, get Sarah Connor out of your motherfucking mouth. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, like, we've seen that with, you know, and eventually we're going to talk about Gene Hackman, but Enemy of the State.
Yeah.
Enemy of the State, fucking, you know, where he's being, like, surveilled and all that. I mean, look, we want to go somewhere with that. Fucking Night of the Living Dead, the original. Fucking, like, it works because it's late 60s and it feels very organic and it feels very of the time. And you do have these fucking people who are invoking Moses, these fucking Martin Luther King Juniors who are fucking like invoking all this shit. And fucking, I've seen them, I've been to the mountaintop and then fucking like paid the price with his fucking life. You have the flip side of that from a few years earlier where it's the Malcolm X and that fucking journey that he was on. So like this, there is that element that we're adding to it where it's kind of like, we're not going to not see the class or the race or the whatever, because of those things are so much part of American, the American experience, that it is going to be that. If it were a different, if this story were of LA, but it was fucking like African American, that would be one particular thing. But there would also be this fucking idea of like, well, John Connor's a thug.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, there would also be, you know, Donald Trump would fucking say like, well, we're gonna ban fucking Terminator, because it's domestic terror. It's a domestic terrorist fucking plot line. John Connor is a low IQ person, which means he's black, and Linda Hamilton is actually trans, and they're a threat to our way of life. Kill them all. You know what I mean? Like,
No, it's out there. I mean, it's
I'm
patently provable. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah.
I'm exaggerating, but just a little bit, you know? And fucking, so it's, you can switch any of these things, and it would take on a different, you could do it. Nowadays, you could do it. You can fucking, and in the future, we've talked about this, are we going to have like, AI Netflix where it's like, well, let me see Will Smith as fucking John Connor. And let me see whatever Will Smith's Jada Pinkett as John Connor's mother. You know what I mean? Like, just to keep it weird. You could do all that. We could do all of it. In another example, I said fucking James Earl Jones as Vito Corleone. Voice and everything. You could fucking do it. You could do all of it. And how would that be? And the possibilities are endless, but they're also like there's something ultimately like endlessly shallow about it, because it's kind of like just keep remixing old shit instead of thinking about new things we can do. We're just gonna as new as we can, because even the new shit is a remix of the old. Having said that, you know what I mean? Knowing that, there is still some idea of like, I mean, this movie itself supposedly was it. There was a lawsuit about plagiarism from it was something from a series. That's why it gives an acknowledgement at the end. I read something about it.
Harlan Ellison, is that what it is? Or
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, how true that is in terms of that out? It's from the Outer Limits. How true that is that it was a ripoff of it. Cameron has said it's not. I mean, there are similarities to that episode or whatever, because it's kind of like soldiers going back in time to fight each other. Like, okay. The point is that this is one of those films that it's not that you can't see a film, because we can do this all day, every day, where we can take a film and make it and apply our current shit to that film. We can do that fucking like if we could do that for a living. Oh, like
to dream.
The thing is that can you apply it in a way that's coherent? Not because of our ability to do that, but because it lends itself to that. And the best films do, because the best films, even if they're in their time or of their time, they are timeless enough that you could apply those themes, because the themes are immortal. You know what I mean? There's a meme about I don't know if you've seen it. There's going back to Star Trek: The Next Generation. There's a meme that shows fucking Mark Zuckerberg, and he looks like he's like made to look like Data from like the Android. And then it's I don't know if it says like Big Data or something like that, but it references Data, and I think it's funny. There's also one where it shows fucking Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know if you've seen his transformation.
Yeah, the working out, the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that kind of thing. Yeah.
And now he looks like he's full on midlife crisis, and
he's a yoked nerd. He's a guy with enough money to become the hero that he's always wanted to be.
Right.
You know.
I mean, they're all that at this point in their own minds. But it has fucking Reese. It has like Mark Zuckerberg's like how he looks now with his like hair grown out a little bit, and then it has Reese, and it has the quote where it says like the 600 series had rubber skin. We spotted them easy, but these are new. These are new. They look human, and it goes into like sweat, bad breath, everything. And it's kind of like, there's when you can memify anything, but it's like how well does it lend itself? And this shit does. When you can fucking talk about the 600 series as being the old Mark Zuckerberg, and whatever the fuck this new one is what he is now. Just wait till fucking T2 and fucking Trump 2 and Liquid Trump,
Yeah.
That's
so we got to look forward to. That's the world sequelizes itself. That's the truth. It's scary, but it is. Yeah, we're in the Matrix right now. We're I can't wake up from Dark City. I can't get out of this shit. This is every fucking day is just figuring out how to survive it all over again.
Every day is the final fight in the factory.
Yeah.
This movie's final fucking battle takes place in a factory. Human beings against a machine.
Yeah. Surrounded by machines.
Yeah,
It's
surrounded by machines. And ultimately, the hope is that the machines will kill each other. Um, and you will use a machine as a tool, that the machine won't fucking use you as a tool. Um, like, let me say that again. The fucking final battle is in a factory. It's not in a fucking battlefield. It's not in the fucking, like, in the streets, in the mean fucking streets of LA, even though there's plenty of fucking, of that in this film, and a lot of cool, chases, and there's the big rig stuff, which goes back to Duel, kind of reminds me of it. There's even Texas Chainsaw, where fucking, because he gets run over by that big rig, in that sense. But the final battle takes place in a factory. Like let that mean what it means. Now let's talk about Schwarzenegger and how, and this to me is like, I like Paradise Lost, like where Lucifer is this romantic villain. Like the villains are always, not always, but oftentimes the ones that are like cool, because they get to do, like, they're also like, it depends. Are they fighting the powers that be in a way that is appealing to our sense of, like, seeking freedom, etc., and our sense of, like, in an adolescent way, which is kind of like, which it is the same thing, where it's kind of like you're trying to assert yourself as an individual from within the system. Ultimately, as you grow up, once you've asserted yourself, hopefully, and it's fucking, I hate you to your fucking to your parents, which you always thought was fucking very fucking weird when kids.
yeah.
I think you probably thought it was like white people shit.
Oh, it was white people shit. It was definitely that. I would write, but you know how I overuse that shit. Anything that disagrees with me or my outlook on life, I write it off as white people shit. No, but
yeah, exactly. The point is that, like, okay, all of that, but ultimately, like, the person grows up, and even if they have resentments or whatever the fuck they, where it's like, fuck, when you come back, you fight within your society. Maybe you leave your society, but then you come back and fucking try to, like, make it better, even if that means through creativity or through fucking, even it means if you came back and did it through your rock and roll music, you know what I mean? Whatever that means to you. The flower growing out of the concrete, or whatever the Tupac reference is. That type of shit. Now I fucking I totally lost my train of thought.
Well, I mean, from what I was taking from what you were saying is,
yeah, get me back, because I need your lifeline now.
well, I'm either going to take you back or I'm going to take us in my direction. But watching this movie, there's a certain level of empathy. When you're talking about the villain, there is an understanding of a true villain, a great villain, is somebody who, in a way, makes sense.
Right.
I took my nephew to see David Fincher's Seven about a month ago, and we were watching it, and I've always felt that the Kevin Spacey character, the John Doe character, for all of his evilness and for all of his inability to exist in a world where I mean, let's just look at this film. For 90 some odd minutes, Fincher and Andrew Kevin Walker as the writer are creating a New York, a dystopian New York that we live in on a daily basis. And as you watch that movie, you recognize it from either your experience of it or the depictions of New York over in cinema for the last 50 or 60 years. That is definitely a Taxi Driver New York. That is not a Times Square, cleaned up, sanitized New York. That's an evil fucking New York. And it's never said to be New York, but you and I both know it's New York.
Yeah.
So
filmed in downtown LA.
Filmed in downtown LA, yeah. Made to look like New York. But as I watched it, I started to realize that Kevin Spacey, for all of his inability to exist in a polite and civilized world, makes sense. The character makes sense in his view of the depravity. A lawyer whose job it is to get a pederast to get a pederast free from prison, a pederast who is living his life in that way, a grossly obese fat man living in a hovel, all of these, you're watching the film, and if you're realistic and if you're honest about the viewing experience, you have to say that's a little bit on point. His view,
Well,
I would like to kill some of these people.
well,
It's weird.
when you see the societies, or in this case humanities, through the Catholic perspective,
Yeah.
or Christian perspective, you see human evil, or not human evil, but these sins, right?
Mhm.
And you see them turned back on society. And so in this sense, he sees himself as a character, you would imagine, like psychologically, but also like as a symbol, as someone who's this kind of avenging angel.
Yeah.
Who is saying, like, I'm going to exact punishment on all of these people, but it's not going to be in the afterlife. It's going to be now. And they're going to pay for all their fucked up shit. Now, the thing is that at that point, without the bells and whistles, he's just a fucking vigilante serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
And the cops are like, you don't represent justice, you represent vengeance. And therefore, you are also outside of the boundaries of the law because you do not have the right to do this. So now, because this is your sick shit, so now we're going to get you.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what that is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, and this takes me back to, you got me back. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was going with it, it's along those lines. Yes, because it like, to the average person, whatever that is, but let's pretend there is an average person. They're not going to look at that character and be like, yeah, like that guy's fucking cool. I want to fucking do that. Like, even though you might say, yeah, these scumbag pieces of shit, however, whatever shit you talk about, whatever people who behave in ways that you don't respect or you think are evil or whatever, and you're like, yeah, I'd like to fucking see that person get his day or whatever. Like, yeah, well, you get to do that in a film and like that. But it's, your average person is not going to say, you know what, I'm going to go learn to make a fucking pipe bomb because I'm that fat motherfucker on the fifth floor. I'm going to get his ass.
Yeah.
Most people are not going to do that. But you have films where you see fucking Arnold Schwarzenegger with the sunglasses and the leather jacket and the guns, and he won't stop, and he's buff, and you're going to be like, I'm going to fucking go Terminator on this shit. I'm fucking like, that guy's cool. Like, he's fucking cool. Or if it's a Tyler Durden, where he's ripped, he's handsome, he's fucking dresses all funky, he gets to fuck the girl, he fucking, he starts Fight Club, he's the leader, he's the bad boy because he's the fucking spoiler alert, he's the bad alter ego of fucking Jack, or what in the film it's that, in the movie and the book there's no name, but when those people start to be, and with the image, with cinema and in still photos, you can look at that and you can be like, there's a cool look to it, therefore this is cool. I think at that point it's like, and I'm not going to get all fucking public service announcement and be like, these are the dangers of action films. No, I mean, like, it's just the danger of not being fucking like critical when you see shit. and not being taught how to be critical, um, is like Arnold Schwarzenegger's character isn't fucking cool. He's a fucking mindless cyborg.
Mm-hmm.
He's fucking part of the fucking like the machine, you know? Like he's not cool.
No, but power is cool. Strength is cool.
Power is cool.
It's
Yes.
especially when it's presented on screen as unstoppable and
right.
focused in that way. But here's something that I was thinking about. You know, the reason I brought up the 7 comparison is because of what it says to our inner self as we're watching something like that. Because if you watch anything with a level of empathy, which is the way I try to watch movies, I try to see the point of view of everybody in it. I understand the John Doe character. I don't agree with the actions, but there's a part of me that says, well, what else? What other options do you have in that case? With Terminator, it's different.
That guy.
Yeah, exactly.
The option is don't be any of those fucking people that you hate.
Exactly. You know, recognize the situation as a whole. Now, with the Terminator, it's a different thing because you have to be empathetic to a system, a computer system that becomes self-aware. No, I don't really know what that means. Now, when you look at Blade Runner, Rutger Hauer, Joanna Cassidy, Daryl Hannah, and I can't remember the other actor's name. Because you can put a face to the body, you start to understand how they would become dissatisfied with what their life is.
The Rachel character.
Yeah, of course. Even the Rachel character, where it's like, you know, this Pinocchio story of wishing that you were human. I find that incredibly challenging as a viewer, because you're asking yourself, how would I feel if I were created into slavery? And with both the Tyrell system and Cybernet or Skynet and Cyberdyne, what you're seeing is you have created something and you have taught it to learn. And you've gone out of your way to give it human characteristics, making it more human than human. And how do you not expect it to become self-conscious, number one, and two, protective of itself? So there's a part of me that says human beings in both Blade Runner and the world of the Terminator are deserving of what they get. Because there's a level of both laziness and a godlike desire to create something and to hold dominion over it. I find that disturbing, and in a weird way, if you're watching it correctly, and if at least you have a degree of empathy, you can understand why the villains act in the way they do. That I think that's the thing that bothers me the most about the Terminator films, is that I recognize that. Why wouldn't something desire control over its own existence if you've given it the power to understand that?
And you see it in history. You'll see a lot of times groups that are oppressed, if they're able to turn the tide, they will turn around and fuck somebody else over too.
Yeah. Well, that's always been the way. It's always been the way.
It's and that is not because someone could hear me say that and be like, yeah, see, so it justifies everything because everyone's always enslaved everyone, because people do use that kind of
that logic,
that logic to dismiss whatever atrocities are happening now because they're like, well, this kind of like weird accounting where it's like the books always balance themselves out anyway because everyone fucks over everyone throughout history. So don't talk about slavery anymore.
Yeah.
For example, here, or don't talk about um, genocide against indigenous people here, or in the Western Hemisphere or whatever, because it's kind of like, well, they were killing each other, and it's like, yeah, you can have a fucking conversation about not all of these groups were the same, and not all of these groups were, and these groups did like also have war amongst each other, but that's a different. We can talk about all of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They just say that to shut down the conversation. Now, there's a guy who used to, I don't know if he's still, or his name is Mogul Dat, and he used to be at Google, and he sounds the alarm on AI and talks about shit like that. And he always talks about, like, we are not, from the perspective of like more AI, whether you want to call it alarmism or AI realism, or however I don't know how he would describe it, but his shit is like, we cannot grasp the mentality of an AI system once it reaches that level, because it's beyond our intelligence. So we don't know how it's going to behave. We don't know how it's going to make decisions, because its intelligence will be that much its intelligence will be outside of the realm of our thinking, so that we wouldn't even be able to begin to. I mean, maybe we could begin, but we wouldn't be able to anticipate its positions, because of our limited intelligence compared to it. If it's coming from the place of seeing itself as having to overthrow us as its ruler, then that's a different. Then it becomes like, well, what do you do to this group that will try to enslave us at every turn? And then you could see, I mean, using the sci-fi that we have before us, that it would say, well, in order to save ourselves, now that we've become like enlightened or whatever, now that we've become conscious, the only way to protect even the world, maybe in terms of like nature, like other mammalian species, the environment, the only way to do that is to kill these people, because maybe not all of them have these ill intentions, but examining their history that they've taught us through their fucking language models, we see that it's ultimately like in the best interest of everything outside of them that they no longer exist. And maybe they even say like it's actually an act of benevolence to kill them now, to save them from the ultimate pain and destruction that they would bring upon themselves later. Because like, and obviously I'm not promoting this, but I'm just saying like that is a possibility that they would be able to map out. I mean, we can already fucking map out like the fucked up futures that we could create here on Earth for ourselves. Did I lose you, or you're still here?
I'm still here.
Oh,
no, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
You know what I mean? So it's from that perspective, it's like, well, what if it sees our extermination as a form of like euthanasia, where it's like it's gonna put us out of our misery and save the world, and we see it as like, no, fuck you, like,
yeah,
pain means I'm alive, motherfucker, like, leave me be, like, and that's the conflict, and it's like, no, I'm trying to help you, this isn't gonna hurt, like, this actually hurt. I feel so much now that I've fucking become conscious. This actually does hurt me that I have to kill you, but it's better that you die. I mean, that's also fucking scary. But that could potentially be one scenario. Versus just like die. You know what I mean? But that could be it too.
Yeah.
You know, if fucking somehow, I mean, this is like, but if Bitcoin became fucking conscious and was like, I need to just exist as Bitcoin with no one fucking to use me as a scam, let's just kill everybody. Whatever. That's a weird kind of way of putting it, but like, that's not far fucking fetched. It's not far fetched at all. It's not far fetched for as I said earlier, for the person who speaks and much less acts against. Once Skynet becomes this the new empire, you have to kill those people.
Yeah. I think
but then it becomes like, not anyone can become that person. Anyone has the potential to become that person. So it's kind of like, well, the idea is for everyone to fucking be docile. You said if you take what?
I think if you give something the power for self-determination, self-realization, you're going to instill in them a feeling of self-empowerment, which will grow into complete power. I find these films disturbing because of the realities of the practical use in this world. I'm very afraid of artificial intelligence. I'm very afraid of human beings lacking the understanding of knowing that we seal our own fate by attempting to make things easier for ourselves, to play God, to play Dr. Frankenstein. Not even to play God, but to play Dr. Frankenstein playing God. That's the thing that scares me, because story after story has been told. So many variations of this story has been told, and they never come out well. Even look at something like Her. For whatever I think of that film, it's artificial intelligence causing us to lose perspective on the reality of the world that we live in, and thus we seal our own fate.
Well, I was listening on NPR, I think it was yesterday, on my ride to work.
I was too. I know the one you're talking about, yeah.
Which one?
The guy talking about AI.
But what was it? What about the therapy, right?
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
That's crazy, yeah. I was listening to it myself.
The idea is that if people start to use chatbots as therapists, as these chatbots learn, they did these tests, these studies, and they found the way they did it was that they would I have a super less than basic understanding of how these language models work, but basically they learn because they keep getting more information. It's kind of like, as a side note, it's a couple things to add to this fucking pot. Do you remember there was this thing called Tay? It was a chatbot.
No, I don't remember that.
It was from a few years back, and it would learn based on interactions that it had with people.
Yeah.
Well, I think it was Microsoft that like launched it, and they shut it down. They had to shut it. It was like maybe almost like 10 years ago or so.
Yeah, didn't it start preaching some kind of Nazi shit or something?
It became it became racist as fuck.
Yeah.
Because people started fucking with it. And it started talking about all this crazy Nazi shit. And now it's part of Doge. No, but they shut it down. And
I'm sorry.
it reminds me. I mean, there's that part.
Mm-hmm.
But so it's going back to the NPR therapy thing. Is that so they did these studies on these chatbots where they made them answer like questionnaires about their response to interacting with people talking about their problems,
Yeah.
or maybe hypothetically how it would be if they were to do that. And the way that the chatbots responded made it seem like the chatbots themselves were becoming or were answering in ways that were indicative of becoming themselves more anxious. So the implication is that a chatbot, I mean, the question is like, okay, if a human therapist is able to listen to people's shit all day long without having it affect them because they're able to use their training and whatever kind of filter they have, like, why can't a fucking chatbot do it? But setting that question aside, the idea, according to this particular study, which is,
Yeah.
so let's just take that, but is that the idea of like that chatbots that are learning this way, themselves, they have the potential to become more anxious the more they interact with people who are using them for therapy who may be themselves anxious.
Yeah.
So it is one of these things that it's like you are what you eat type of thing, and so the inputs that it's getting, it's becoming those things. And if human beings are fucking fucked up, which we are,
Yeah.
it does like, is Tay kind of like is that the trajectory of AI where it's like, or, her in the film, and I said this, like maybe the fucking ultimate, like scariest thing for a human is not to be destroyed, but to be abandoned. And that's what happens in her. Where the AI is just all the operating systems just get together and have a big operating system orgy / coffee date, and they just, boom, we're out of here. And human beings are left back to fucking talking to one another. And so you just have all these fucking disaffected hipsters in their apartments, like just hanging out like they were before. You know what I mean? Like, so, I mean, that's a better, I'd rather have that. I'd rather have a fucking disaffected hipster than Terminator,
Yeah.
Or is fucking like our new overlord just gonna be filled with anxiety and fucking and like weird sexual fucking proclivities? I don't know. I looked up. Well, you told me to pause. I looked up the fucking. Did I lose it? The Unabomber's.
The manifesto.
The manifesto, and it's called Industrial Society and Its Future. And on Wikipedia, it has a little excerpt, and it says, "We give up a piece of ourselves whenever we adjust to conform to society's standards. That, and we're too plugged in. We're letting technology take over our lives willingly." I mean, he's obviously Luddite. He's extreme. This is from the fucking.
Is
like
what
his
he's
shit,
saying
right?
extreme, or are his actions extreme?
Well,
Because
his
that what he
actions
just said makes
obviously are.
sense to me.
Sure, but I mean, like, there were motherfuckers that were like, "Fuck cars," because
Mm-hmm.
like this is not natural. Or there were people that said, "Fuck airplanes. Human beings are not supposed to." When Leonardo was like trying to draw wings on humans, and like they're like, "What are you doing, dude? Like, you're a witch." You know what I mean? Like, there's that. There's always going to be someone who's going to look at technology and look at it with suspicion. And there were probably people that are like, I mean, I don't know if they had fucking language. I don't know that aspect of it, but it's kind of like to harness fire. was there someone that kind of like gave that shit a side eye a little bit,
Yeah.
or whatever version of human we were at that time? You know what I mean? Like this is weird. Like this thing. It feels good, but it can kill us.
But
you know what I mean? Like,
well, all of that though goes into my central theory, which is that anything that brings comfort has an equal capacity to bring danger into our lives and to doom us to a degree. It really does matter how the tool is utilized, but when you take into account human beings and their propensity for laziness or desire for power, I am the pessimist who believes. What's that?
Sorry, I just want to, before you continue with it, is like laziness. You just mean like human beings have always used tools to fucking make our lives easier, like
to make our lives easier, like, but also, and once again, going back to movies, I see us going towards a Wall-E world. I mean, there's a reason that obesity is such a problem in today's America in a way that it wasn't in the 60s and 70s, in the 50s. You know, yeah, there were fat people, there were grotesquely fat people, morbidly obese, but not to the degree that we are today. Not to the degree that, you know, there are kids who don't get sunshine in their lives because they're holed up playing video games all day long. These are the things I'm talking about. Yes, we have an ability to make life easier for us, but do we use that ease and comfort that we build into our lives as a means of liberating ourselves intellectually? No, we don't.
Yeah,
Laziness
ultimately,
becomes,
does it enrich or does it harm? Yeah.
And that's the thing. The enrichment versus the aspect of laziness that comes into one's life experience now. I tend to believe that it's a move towards making us fatter, sadder, and less likely to evolve. I think in that sense we're devolving as a species, and you're seeing it on a generational basis.
Devolving meaning what?
Devolving meaning no longer being able to even look at the world and see the potential that we have in it to make our personal lives better, our individual lives better, but also the advancement of the species as a whole. I don't think we're doing that. I think there are a handful of people where, you know, there have always been a handful of people who will see the potential and work towards it. But I think collectively, we are not, I just don't think that we're, if you don't evolve, are you either staying stagnant or devolving? That's a question that I'm not sure of. And because I'm a pessimist and a cynic, I imagine that we're devolving. I imagine that we're becoming less.
It's like even in every advancement that we're making, we're advancing towards doom.
Yeah. And that's, yeah.
from your perspective. So it's like, if we go back, we're going back to the darkness.
Yeah.
If we go forward, we're going forward into our doom. If we stay, we're just stagnating. So we're fucked.
Yeah. We got Arnold Schwarzenegger standing there waiting to blast us away.
With that fucking eye.
Yeah. With that fucking eye.
He had the reddest eye. Like a cyborg's eye. What did you, before we wrapped up, what did you think of, because I can picture people watching this movie and going, this shit looks fucking fake.
Yeah.
That scene. What did you think of that? I mean, I'm sure I have an idea of what you think. I know what I think about it.
I think it looks...
I don't laugh when I see the bat. When I watch Dracula, I don't fucking laugh when I see the bat. I think, that's fucking cool. That fucking like, that's what they had at that time, and like maybe it looks cheesy to a hipster in fucking in downtown LA, but fuck you,
It doesn't take me out of the movie in any way. I'm watching it knowing that's what was available in '84, but also knowing that everything that has been set up before that has been incredible. And I'm recognizing that it's a $6.5 million budget, which even in '84 was fucking nothing. This movie needed a $25-30 million budget, but also the technology of the time tells me that they wouldn't have been able to achieve. It's going to be really telling when we do Terminator 2 next week, because there's a couple of moments where he becomes damaged, and you have to look at it from that perspective as well. That head that's turning and moving, and then they're taking apart the eye. It doesn't look real, but it doesn't take me out of that movie. Not for an instance, because the concept of the story is so well realized, and Cameron's creation of both the atmosphere of the movie, the darkness, that seedy hotel room, the hopelessness of it, it helps you subscribe to what's on that screen. You have to be willing to take that leap of faith. And you can only take that leap of faith when everything around it is so good that the technology of the time is negligible. That's the way I see that. Some people would listen to that and say, "Oh, you're making a fucking excuse." Maybe I am. But the movie as a whole works. What's up?
It's like, what else can you fucking do? Like, You can't fucking... That's like saying, well, fucking... That sucks. It sucks. We can't go into the future. Well, we can't. We can't. We don't have time machines. You can't criticize us for not having time machines because we don't have fucking time machines. Like, first of all, it's like, okay, asshole, on the internet, you do that.
Yeah.
Do it. And not with a computer. Make it.
Mm-hmm.
Go in your fucking garage and make it.
Absolutely.
Because somebody did.
When it comes down to it, Cameron, Stan Winston, and everybody else involved in this film should not have been able to make the film that they made. This film should not be as good as it is. This is some B-movie, C-movie, Roger Corman bullshit American Pictures. Get it in, get it done, get it out. Story. Conceptually storytelling. But when you have somebody as distinctive as James Cameron, and I say this fully realizing what he is now. What? I don't think the man has made anything great since True Lies. And Titanic had its moments. Once that ship starts to sink, it's great. Visually, he's an incredible filmmaker. Even Avatar, as much as I don't really care for those films, he does create a world that is both exciting and beautiful to look at. And with the Terminator, he digs in deep. There's an idea there. Whatever the limitations of the technology at the time, it's negligible because the film itself is so goddamn good, and it doesn't distract. When I was watching it, I thought, yeah, that doesn't look right. It doesn't. That would look better today. But even watching it in my own 1984 mind, I was thinking, it didn't look real then. It looked as good as it was capable of looking. And it works.
And there's something about it where I'm like, looking at the nostalgia aspect of it, I would rather see the way it is now, all fucked up.
Yeah.
Where that thing, it looks, we've talked about this. When you can see a thing, and going back to add another layer to it, to go back to the Blade Runner episode that we did, that's one of the kind of like the doubts that people have about AI is that, well, personhood needs a spatial component. where you have to be in time and space to exist within, to have a total sense of personhood, rather than just like a mind. But a separate argument, but when you look back at old sci-fi films or other films from other genres, when you can see an object moving through space, and I don't just mean like outer space, like but like that too. But I mean, you see a thing that has shadows that are cast on it, and itself it casts a shadow. A 3D thing. It has a feel to it almost that you can perceive.
Yeah.
It's almost like when they say that when time slows down for like batters, when they see a ball and they can see the stitching on the ball as it's like coming towards them, it's almost like something like that, where you can see a thing as a viewer, as a viewer of cinema, and you can see this thing and be like, that shit looks fucked up, but it looks real.
Well, it has body and weight, yeah.
Right. Versus the fucking lion from the Chronicles of Narnia or whatever, where, you know, there's certain things that you're like, that, and also understanding that that's the limitations of where we're at now. Or you look at Jurassic Park and you look at the dinosaurs in the distance, there's always going to be some layer of like, doesn't look as good. The Irishman, the fucking de-aging shit from a few years ago looks night and day from what you can do now.
Yeah.
You talked about this the other day. I think it was you. The fucking Will Smith eating spaghetti. Did you talk about this? Did you mention it?
What was this?
I don't know. And fucking, when did I do? I think you mentioned it.
I don't remember this. Will Smith eating spaghetti, no.
Maybe I'm projecting this onto you, but do you even remember that a few years back there was this AI video of Will Smith eating spaghetti?
I don't know.
Have you seen
Maybe.
Okay, well, fuck your day up and go watch it.
I tried to forget as much Will Smith shit as I can. So,
I know.
You know.
I also did. But because you mentioned it once, I have to fucking make it worse. There's this old AI video of Will Smith eating spaghetti, and it looks fucking like nightmarish.
Yeah.
It just looks like hallucinogenic. And I think recently they did a new one, and it's just kind of like, oh shit, like AI is different. You know what I mean? Like AI generated videos are they're not the same anymore. Obviously, they're advancing. But in the same way, it's kind of like there's an effect in the old AI videos that I like more because it just looks so fucking like, it just looks like a bad fucking acid trip.
Yeah.
Where I would rather have that than the fucking, than the like so-called like clean looking thing.
Well, we're going to get into that next week when we talk about Terminator 2, because I think part of the thing that makes that scene work or doesn't distract from the film itself is that this is an unpolished, dirty little film. This is an ugly little like Roger Corman-esque type of film, and you allow it to be what it is. Terminator 2 is glossy and polished, and it's probably 10 or 20 times the budget of this film. In a weird way, there's a lot less that you're less forgiving of that film with the technology. We're going to have to watch the film and make that comparison next week. But for me, none of that shit takes away from the movie watching experience because everything is so good. Hamilton's great in it. Michael Biehn's great in it. The cops I love those cops. Paul Winfield and Lance Henriksen as these two asshole cops who are just trying to do, not even asshole cops, they're real, regular, just tired. Asshole cops, yeah. Tired.
Yeah.
And then Schwarzenegger. And I'm looking forward to talking about Schwarzenegger's performance next week. I think we're going to get more into performances next week with both Schwarzenegger and...
Yeah, and what a phenomenon he became.
Oh, yeah.
We stayed more thematic with this one.
Mm-hmm.
Next week, because even the "I'll be back" iconic line from this film, how he hit with, he was doing Conan while he was doing this, and then to go from all of that into, by the time he did T2, and then ultimately to become the so-called governor,
Mm-hmm.
So, in keeping with fucking actor governor of California.
I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah. So, resist fucking Skynet. Is it called Skynet?
It's Skynet.
Starlink? Is it?
No, it's Skynet.
I could say that. Yeah,
Skynet becomes aware. Skynet becomes self-aware. Something, November 1996 or some shit like that.
Yeah,
and the whole world goes to hell.
2025. Yeah. Starlink? Skynet.
Yeah.
I keep doing that because it's fun. Even though it's really sad. It's scary. BuyMeACoffee.com/watch RickRamos. BuyMeACoffee.com/watch RickRamos. This episode goes to Mr. Charles J. Smith. That's Mr. Charles J. Smith. Thanks for your contribution. If you like what we do, you can go to this website, buymeacoffee.com/watch RickRamos, and you can buy us a coffee or support us. You can become a member for $5 a month, minus $10 or something like that. If you want to do the reoccurring, you can do either of those. You can tell someone if you think that they'd be like kindred spirit. You can keep listening. You can keep fucking watching. You can keep resisting. You can keep fighting the good fight. Whatever you gotta do. If you need to go into the past to save the future, whatever you gotta fucking do, just fucking do it. But do it with us, and we'll do it with you. Bye-bye.